What's a common fact that's actually incorrect? It's not dangerous to wake a sleepwalker. They won't have a heart attack or be put into a coma. They'll just be confused and it won't be pleasant for them, that's it. And depending on what kind of dream they're in, they might hit you. I know some people that it doesn't matter what their dream is. Gladiator games in ancient Rome where not two men go in, one comes out. The figure I've seen in most studies is a chance of 1 to 9 for a gladiator to die during a moon news that he took part in. That's huge, of course, but still means that, in most cases, it wasn't a fight to the death. If people knew that the vast majority of gladiators were highly trained entertainers, they'd know that of course they weren't killed often. Most were slaves, yes, but their masters spent a large amount of time and money to shape them for the games. It wasn't even uncommon for a slave gladiator to buy their freedom and remain a gladiator. Fights to the death were generally accidents or were public executions for criminals, albeit with a couple of extra steps for the entertainment of the crowd. These fights were in the minority. It's difficult to translate into modern times because the ancients often had a different understanding of slavery. While conditions were appalling at places like silver mines, the law was quite strict in mistreating slaves, many of whom had positions working in the household as tutors and such. Of course, always exceptions to be found, but being a slave in the Roman Empire isn't comparable to being one in a Caribbean sugar farm. No one was ever burned at the Salem witch trials. They were all either hanged, died in jail, or crushed by rocks. Edit. I did not learn this from Molly's game. I learned it from Salmonella. Oh, that's okay then, smiley face. Our wholesome memes. The beverage used by Jim Jones to kill all of those people was not Kool-Aid, it was another brand called Flavor Aid. Some bitch didn't even use the real deal. At least he saved some money. You can put birds back in their nests. The mother will not reject them. I learned this when I was little. Being the idiot I was, I thought hitting a tree with my t-ball bat was a good idea. I ended up accidentally knocking 3 baby birds out of a nest. The mother was not home, so I put them back in the nest. I checked up on them when the mother would go out. A few times they fell out again, so I would put them back in. Eventually time passed and they grew into strong little birds. They all ended up flying eventually. Was a nice ending to a stupid decision by my like 8-year-old self. I think I'll call it a day after reading this. It's commonly said that lightning never strikes twice in the same place. In fact, it does, and frequently. Lightning has literally struck the Empire State Building thousands of times. That thing is a massive lightning rod, but it takes 7 years to digest gum. That one always made me laugh. Like, why wouldn't you just out the gum with everything else? Why would it just chill in there while everything else kept going through? Made no sense, lol. Because it's sticky, duhhhh. Fact, then putting butter on a burn will heal it. Fact, now, don't try it? Well, if you top it with raspberry jam it should work. You most probably weren't the fastest sperm cell. The egg has an outer protective layer that takes several sperm to wear down before fertilization. Honestly, you were probably one of the slowest sperm cells who arrived too late to do any work but still won't win the race of life. Also, the egg actually has a number of chemical barriers that select sperm with certain attractive chemical markers. The egg actually chooses which packet of DNA makes it to fertilization. Edit. Also, since a lot of people are calling the egg stupid, the chemical marker the egg chooses are decided upon the conditions before the conceiving period. For e.g., if a mother eats a lot of good nutritious food, the chance of having a boy gets significantly increased. So you are telling me that egg decided that I will be a compilation of most genetic disorders in my family? No one said the egg was the sharpest tool in the shed. There are not different sections of the tongue for each taste. When I was a kid they had us take one of those standardized tests on the computer. One reading article went on and on about the taste sections of the tongue. I've believed this my whole life. Honestly, I hope they've put more effort into fact-checking the articles used in standardized tests. I mean, for approximately 10 minutes your whole existence is dedicated to understanding the passage. You'd think they'd be accurate. Humans eat 8 spiders a year in their sleep. Spiders generally like cool, dry places. The inside of your mouth is not an appealing place for them. Spiders Georg, who lives in Cave and Amp, eats over 10,000 spiders each day, is an outlier and should not have been counted. Every time I see this, I laugh. It doesn't stop being funny. Walking around barefoot is not a way to catch a cold. It is a way to get ringworm though. How come the hobbits never spoke of their ringworms? We only use 10% of our brain power. You always use 12 watts. That is the total power of the brain. Pretty sure my parents would disagree with that. Why is that? Are they neuroscientists? Daddy-Longlegs are the most venomous spiders in the world, but they can't bite you. I hate this one so much. Daddy-Longlegs spiders are not venomous to humans at all. No, they can't bite you, but even if they could, you wouldn't die or come anywhere close. Edit. Apparently they aren't even spiders either. WTF. Another edit. Guys, read the comments before you post that they can bite. Other people explain that for you down there. Daddy-Longlegs aren't spiders. Spiders have 2 body segments. That depends on where you're from. In Australia, the animals we call daddy-long-legs really are a species of spider. That fish have a 3-second memory. They have up to a 3-year memory. I thought that was supposed to be their attention span. Nah, I can definitely hold my fish's attention for more than 3 seconds when they're expecting food. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment didn't involve injecting people with syphilis, as is commonly believed. It's still used as the go-to example of unethical medical experiments, however, because it involved observing the progression of untreated syphilis, and not treating subjects with penicillin when it became available. And they lied about it. These people were told they were getting treatment. I think this is the stage where the misconception comes from. So when people are told they're being treated, but instead develop symptoms or worse, they immediately go to being infected in the first place. Not really a crazy leap. Edit. Spelling. Is all digested and unprocessable food waste, when really up to 50% of it is dead bacteria cells. That much chunky hard bacteria is just sitting in my body. There's that much in there that it densities into 50% and still takes up lots of space. Your intestines are 6 meters long. Every inch of the inside are covered on bacteria. Between 25 and 500 million bacteria can fit in 1 square inch. Their life cycle is between 12 min and V12 hours. Lots of bacteria die between. There's no solid division between left and right brain. The left side can learn right brain skills and vice versa. That's similar to how my neurologist described my diagnosis of epilepsy to me. That one part of my brain was teaching the other how to have seizures. Hate it when that happens. The phrase wasn't, "Luke, I am your father." It was, "No, I am your father." Oh yeah, the Abraham Lincoln effect. I think you mean the Morgan Freeman confusion. The is a muscle, false, that consists of a unique tissue that inflates with blood and restricts the blood from leaving, which inflates the tissue and creates an erection. The same type of tissue exists in your nose, which is why you get a stuffy nose from sneezing, crying, allergies, all of which increase blood flow to the face. Edit. Wanted to add for cringe factor, but you can rupture or break your as well, smiley face. So, what you're telling me is that clogged sinuses are nose boners. Indeed. Period. Blood doesn't just flow out constantly, it can stop for a while and continue. One time my flow stopped for an entire day and I stopped wearing pads because I thought my period was over, just to be happily reminded that my body hates me by staining my favorite jeans the next day. My body also likes to remind me of this. Also, period are real, and not pleasant. A bidet and reusable pads have been life-changing for me. I'm all about the Diva Cup. I don't exaggerate when I say it changed my life. I feel like one of those cheesy commercials where the woman skips down the beach wearing a white bikini or something, because my life is literally that much better after starting to use one. Napoleon wasn't short, he was actually 5'7", which was considered average to tall height for the time. Apparently the only way we can surmise that the urban legend started that he was short was because of the difference between English and French imperial units, which led to his height seeming small by British figures. It was also propaganda. He also surrounded himself with an imperial guard, all of whom were 6 feet plus. But the blood in your body is blue until it hits oxygen. Is there anyone who's dumb enough to actually think this? That doesn't even make sense. My gym teacher said it's blue when I was arguing with my friends about it freshman year of high school. They were adamant that blood was blue until it touched the air while I was telling them they're completely wrong and it's always red. Thanks for showing off your college education, Coach Glenn. The belief that Jingle Bells was written to be a Christmas song. Wrong. It was intended to be a Thanksgiving song. I thought it was about Batman's lack of personal hygiene. See also, Robin's cloaca. That I'm not as funny as I think I am according to my wife. Nah, mate. She's just jealous. You're hilarious. Kirk never said, "Beam me up, Scotty," in Star Trek. Oh, yes sir. Snotty beamed me twice last night. Put those space balls back where they came from, or so help me. People actually did expect the Spanish Inquisition. They were given a 30-day period where they could confess their sins before the Inquisition would come for them. Another one is cow tipping. Cows don't sleep standing up. The ones standing are usually on like a guard duty to alert the others who are sleeping should a danger arise. No one is sneaking up on an awake cow and pushing it over. Last one off the top of my head is the old sugar in the gas tank. That's not gonna do anything. No engine death, syrup in the cylinders, etc. Sugar doesn't dissolve in gasoline, and the sugar isn't going to make it past the fuel filter into the engine when it gets sucked up the pump. Worst case scenario, you clog the filter and spend about $6 to replace it. There are papers calculating the force needed to tip a cow even if they were sleeping while standing. But the best indicator for me that the whole cow tipping thing is a myth is the YouTube proof. People film themselves doing all kinds of stupid things, but there are no videos on YouTube of people actually tipping a cow. I know that absence of proof is not automatically proof of absence, but for the practical purposes of this discussion it is good enough for me. Edit typo. That Adolf Hitler was an atheist. Actually, Hitler was raised Roman Catholic. But when he wrote Mein Kampf, he believed that God created the peoples. SS members were also required to believe in God as well. Hitler also referenced God in many of his speeches.